We are the musicians of the Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra.
We are yours.
We are a full-time, 52-week orchestra.
We are yours.
This is a portrait of who we are and what we do, in our own words. We play over 200 concerts annually and introduce the symphony to over 70,000 children per year.
We play for so many children, I think it's somewhere around 70,000 per season. Kevin Hall, bassoon. It's phenomenal, I think, the impact that the orchestra has on the artistic lives of these children.
All of us, I think, in the orchestra do a lot of teaching, whether it's one-on-one or not. We play a lot of youth concerts, a lot of educational concerts at Bass Hall. Dennis Bubert, bass trombone. It's a really neat experience to sit on stage and look out and see 2,000 young faces looking up at you with this look of expectancy, a little bit a lack of recognition as to what might be about to happen. But you can always tell you've reached them, that you've got them when they're quiet at the end of pieces, or when they scream and holler and whistle and stamp on their seats and smile at the end of concerts. I think that's one of the most important things we do in the orchestra. I think that aspect of it is a tremendous impact on the community and plays an important role in those kids' education.
You know, I started playing piano when I was about 7 years old, and I came home from school, I don't know, when I was 9 years old, and my best friend was playing the violin, and for some reason, I just came home and I told my mom, I want to play the violin. Kim Torgel, violin. And I don't know what it was. It was just like this need to play the violin. So my mom went out and got a violin for me, and I started playing on that thing like I knew what I was doing, even though there was no rosin on the bow, and it sounded horrible. My mom was just probably standing in the corner laughing at me, but I just knew inside that that is what I was supposed to do.
I started in Costa Rica. When I was 8 years old, my dad actually was my first teacher. He was a trumpet player himself, and he liked music all his life, you know, and he wanted his kids to play an instrument for fun. So we started like that. My older brother is a clarinetist, so we were building up a family bond through music. I developed a love for music as well as a sense of hard work.
Unlike most woodwind instruments, you use the thumbs a lot more on the bassoon than on other woodwinds. For example, the clarinet just has a thumb hole and a key. Oboe has 2 keys for the left thumb. I have 10. The history of the bassoon has been one of adding keys to try to make it in tune. And still, for all the problems, I love this instrument. I find it to be one of the most human-sounding of instruments. It really emulates both the bass and tenor voice, and it has such a wonderful tenor sound in the orchestra. And so it's the love of my life. It's given me a real career.
Whenever we refer to them as solos, some of the violin players kind of snicker, because how could it be a solo? It was only 3 notes. But You know, when this is your weapon of choice, you kind of go with what you've got.
My violin was made in 1939. It's a modern Italian violin, and it has a really beautiful back. It's kind of a almost psychedelic back to it. I can't imagine ever buying another one. I mean, unless someone were to give me a Strat or a Guarneri or something. The audition process is really difficult for people, for all instruments. Usually, you know, people send their resume in. For violin positions, there's sometimes 300 resumes. And I've been on both sides of the screen. I've auditioned and I've been on the committee to hire people. So it's very tense either way. But basically, you have to play perfectly within about 5 minutes and just really show what you have. And it's just a really tough process. I think people don't really understand, but actually, usually you find out that day if you get the job. But it really takes such consistency and such hard work. Sometimes at auditions you show up and there are a couple hundred violinists there, and you just think, how am I going to get this job? Or you're behind the screen, you're judging these people, and they all have amazing resumes from Juilliard, from USC, from Oberlin, and you just think like, wow, any of these people would be fantastic in this orchestra. But it all depends on how well you play that day, how well you're prepared, because most people are very prepared, very talented. But it's just tough. It's just a tough gig. You have a very small amount of time to show what you have.
I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize about our profession is how much time we have to spend with the instrument, practicing, preparing. For myself, I spend at least as much time making reeds as I do actually practicing the notes. Our jobs depend on having things prepared when we sit down at the first rehearsal. So that it entails a huge amount of time outside the workplace. Just like our patrons, we're citizens of this area. We have full-time jobs, we pay taxes here, we buy homes. When I first joined the Fort Worth Symphony in 1977, I was 24 years old and I was the youngest member of the orchestra. Right now, I'm one of the oldest members of the orchestra. I've been here for 33 seasons, about to start my 34th consecutive season here. So I really grew up with the Fort Worth Symphony. I grew with the symphony. When I first took this job, it was a 30-week season and I got $7,000 a year and collected unemployment the rest of the time and took odd jobs that I could do. Did a lot of teaching, including teaching oboe as well as bassoon.
We are involved citizens of the community, working, volunteering, and supporting many community events and organizations.
A lot of our people in the orchestra are involved in community betterment programs, Victory Over Violence, the food bank. It's amazing how many people volunteer their time to go out to the schools without pay. It's amazing to me, the altruism within this orchestra. I think is just phenomenal.
My worst concerts in the garden experience ever. Becky Stern was there because she was merciless in teasing me about this. The night before the concert, getting ready to go to bed, and one thing I had to do back then was we had this little dog that needed to have medication every day for epileptic seizures. And I was going through the mail and talking to Janet and checking email and doing all this, and I was taking some meds myself, and in doing all this I noticed I haven't given the dog her pill yet, and it was right there, and my pills are there and hers aren't. And I'd taken this animal tranquilizer, and I called the 24-hour emergency vet, and they said, "You took what?" "Just a minute." And another vet gets on the line, and she said, "You just took a dose of..." "Yeah, I did." "What, do I need to go to the hospital?" No, you're probably going to be tired tomorrow." And tired was not the word for it.
We act as the backbone of the highly acclaimed Bass Performance Hall, providing hundreds of concerts of great symphonic music,
Beethoven,
Berlioz,
Bach, and Brahms,
Mozart,
Mahler.
Mendelssohn,
Prokofiev,
and entertaining pops.
We played with everyone from John Williams
Pink Martini.
to Willie Nelson. We accompany a lot of various arts groups in the area. Fort Worth Opera, the Seminary Chorus, done work at TCU and the Side by Side with their orchestra. We also play for the Van Cliburn competition in Piano, Texas.
We have played sold-out concerts in New York City's Carnegie Hall to rave reviews from several newspapers, including the New York Times, the Dallas Morning News, and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram.
Well, one of the high points of my career here with Miguel Harth Bedoya was our performance in Carnegie Hall. Actually, I had the most fun with the Peter and the Wolf concerts. I mean, the evening concert was fantastic, and we got wonderful reviews for that. But doing Peter and the Wolf, this time with John Lithgow as narrator. So we got to Carnegie Hall quite early, and John Lithgow was there. And so we had this wonderful chat. When I came off the stage after that first performance, he said, "Grandfather rocked."
I would say the demands on the modern symphony player are far greater than they were even a generation ago. But today you're expected to be able to play all styles of music well.
Definitely when I was in Costa Rica growing up, I came with friends and played salsa music, all kinds of dance music, Latin. Orchestral musicians these days definitely need to have more of a commercial, like a secondary background, because we need some of this experience in the concert hall these days.
Everywhere I travel, people are excited when they hear that I'm from Fort Worth, because the reputation of Fort Worth has grown and grown and grown. It's been a city on the rise for a number of years. It's an exciting city. Fort Worth is no longer a provincial town. Fort Worth is a major city. The symphony here is one of less than 20 full-time orchestras in the United States. A city that's had its reputation based on the high quality of art. The symphony is the centerpiece for that. Can you imagine Fort Worth without the Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra? Can you imagine Fort Worth without the Kimball Art Museum?
Many of you buy tickets, attend concerts, and donate generously. You serve on boards or volunteer your time. You are our reason for being. You are our patrons, and we are eternally grateful. You may even be curious about attending a concert for the first time. But more than just play concerts, we, the musicians, are truly dedicated to promoting the arts in our community.
Please join the musicians of the Fort Worth Symphony on Facebook and share with us your favorite stories, pictures, or concert experiences. We are your Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra, and we believe a great city deserves a great orchestra.